Linda Barcz from the Bruce Company is here taking your calls at 270-9933. Some pretty moss roses.
Moss roses will, see, that's a plant that loves this hot, dry weather. They do. They don't mind it at all because they're a succulent. So those leaves are like fat little chubby things that hold a lot of moisture. But if you've been traveling and your annuals have died, we do have some nice substitutions that you can make, as well as basil. I've got a plant of that. And everybody's loving that for pesto and with their tomatoes and things. And then I also have some zinnias that make great cut flowers. That's the bright pink, and gazania was the one that was next to it. But I also have a little rosemary here. We can smell these wonderful herbs as soon as you brush your hand on them.
Again, all annuals, so.
All annuals. The rosemary you can overwinter inside your house. You treat it like a house plant.
I still got, what, 3-4 months left?
Oh, we got lots of time.
Hopefully. Let's go to the phones. We'll start with Linda in Monroe. Hi, Linda.
Hello.
Hi, what's your question?
I have tomatoes with yellow leaves on the bottom. I understand that possibly could be blight. What is blight, and what can I do about it?
Blight is a fungus, and that's why you typically will rotate where you have your tomatoes growing in your garden, because if you aren't real good about cleaning up the dead plants in the fall, some of that can get incorporated in the soil, and then when it rains, the fungus spores splash up onto the plants. If it's the early stages of it, you can remove some of those leaves and then spray the rest to protect it from it spreading to the rest of the plant. Now, this week of dry weather will actually be helpful, and then I think we're just going to have a little bit of rain. And
can you spray if there's tomatoes on?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, Jerry in Deerfield. Hi, Jerry.
Hi there.
Hi, what's your question?
I've got a peach tree that barely made it through the winter, very few leaves on it, and now I've noticed where the old branches came out, the small ones, it seems like the sap is coming out of there. What would be the best thing, just dig it up and get rid of it?
Yeah, I'm very sad to hear a lot of peach trees just did not make it through last winter. We hadn't had a winter that cold in quite a long time. And the peaches that, even though they're hardy varieties, I suspect that it's just not going to make it, unfortunately.
Yeah, the huge crabapple plant in my backyard, there's very few apples on it at all.
Well, does yours tend to be an alternate year?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll have to check.
Okay.
Would they alternate?
Some crab apples, yes. You'll have a real heavy seed or apple production one year, and then a little bit less than this the next year. Depends upon the variety.
Good to know. All right, Gary in Madison. Hi, Gary.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. What's your question?
I grow hollyhocks, and the hollyhocks that are flowering this year, the Japanese beetles have pretty much taken care of all the leaves. The ones coming up this year, the new ones, they're not bothering. My question is it worth fertilizing the ones that are starting to flower now?
That's interesting that they aren't eating the little baby ones. See, hollyhocks will you're going to have real good blooms next year, and yes, definitely fertilize. This last weekend, I just fertilized all of my plants. It's time. It's that time to carry it over, and then it's before things are actually getting ready for winter.
And those Japanese beetles, they're bad this season.
They are out all of a sudden.
Yeah. All right, Carol in Middleton. Hi, Carol.
Hello.
Hi, what's your question?
Yes, sir. I received a beautiful house plant, and I believe it's called the peace lily, but there was no directions with it for care, but it came with a ceramic flower pot, but it's in a plastic flower pot also, and dirt. So what care does this beautiful plant need?
Well, it's one of those plants that if it gets too dry, it will wilt. And it doesn't hurt if that happens once in a while, but you don't want to do that on a regular basis. So I would just suggest, if it's about a pot about this size, if you water that very thoroughly once a week. Don't you think, Mark? He's the king of the peace lilies, by the way. He gets them to bloom all the time. But if it's larger than this, use this as a rule of thumb where you lift that pot. See, this is nice and heavy. This doesn't have to be watered. And since it's in a ceramic container, make sure it doesn't sit in water for longer than about 2 hours.
Okay. Mine's in the south window, so it's like sun.
It will tolerate that, but it'll take some shade too. So obviously you have to water it more if it's in a sunny spot.
All right, Judy in McFarland. Hi, Judy.
Hi.
Hi, what's your question?
I'm just wondering, does it do me any good to deadhead my clematis? They're all beautiful, but the flowers are starting to die away, and I just wondered if I should deadhead them, or is it a one-shot deal?
Well, I don't have any clematis that repeat bloom, and I guess that I sort of like the way the seed develops because it gets sort of airy and so on. I don't think that it's beneficial on the clematis.
Yeah, they're beautiful and they're blooming.
They are gorgeous plants, yes.
All right, let's go to Janelle in Blanchardville. Hi, what's your question?
Hi.
Hi.
Pumpkin time. Wanted to know what type of fertilizer to use on the pumpkins. They've set on. They're bigger than a $50. Can I use a 5-10-10, a 10-10-10? What should I use?
It's not going to be terribly critical at this point because you've already set your fruit, and any of the materials that you're describing will be fine because the first number is nitrogen, the second one is phosphorus, and then potassium. But once you've set your fruit, it isn't that critical, so I wouldn't suggest that you have to go out and buy a special fertilizer. Use something that you have on hand.
But this is the time of year to fertilize stuff.
It actually is, yes, because we've had a lot of rain, so the nutrients have, especially the nitrogen, has leached. And it's that cycle of time. Unless you've used some sort of granular material, that's a slow release.
Right.
But if Miracle Grow, you're a lover of that, good time to do it.
Use some rain, though. It's, dry out there.
It is. Check your plants.
All right, we're out of time. If you're on the line, stay there, Linda. We'll talk to you off the air. We'll see you next week.
Very good.
And we'll be right back. The final check your forecast.